All right, so should the U.S. overhaul its policy on Syria based on what you just saw? A new bill has been introduced in Congress that would make it illegal for the U.S. to arm or assist the extremist groups in any way. The bill's author is Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She claims U.S.-backed rebel groups in Syria are assisting terror groups like al-Qaeda, and they're using our money to do it. Congresswoman Gabbard joins us now. Congresswoman, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Chris. Aloha.
Have not had the chance to speak to you since you met with President-elect's transition team. Of course, these decisions will be in his hands once he assumes office in just a few weeks. What is your feeling about the direction our policy will take?
Well, this is exactly why I accepted the invitation to meet with President-elect Trump, was to speak very directly about the situation in Syria and to call on him to do what I have been talking about in Congress now for years, and that is to end the illegal, counterproductive regime change war that we have been fueling along with countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar by pouring money and weapons and intelligence and other support to these groups that are directly working with groups like al-Qaeda and ISIS, groups that we are supposed to be trying to fight and to defeat.
What were you met with by the transition team?
It was a very substantive and it was a good conversation, talking directly about these issues. This is what my bill speaks to. The Stop Arming Terrorists Act would make it illegal, would prohibit us using any taxpayer funds from providing both direct and indirect support to these groups that are directly, again, working with groups like al-Qaeda or funneling that money through countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
Did you get any sense of whether or not the president-elect supports your bill?
Well, if you look at the statements that he has made, even just in the last few days, about ending our interventionist war policies, my hope is that this administration, that this will be an area that we can agree on, that we can take immediate action to, again, stop providing this funding, stop providing this support, stop this interventionist, counterproductive regime change war, because that is what is critical to be able to address the humanitarian crisis that is on the ground there. We have to provide aid, we have to provide support to these people who've gone through such suffering and such trauma, but first we must address the cause of this crisis.
Well, so how do you address the understanding that the regime, and maybe with the help of Russia, they are the ones responsible for what we're seeing on the ground in terms of the humanitarian crisis, and your bill would stop American support from the groups that are fighting against the regime and the Russians?
Well, just in your news report a few minutes ago, it talked about how these rebels are firing on innocent civilians as they are trying to flee these areas. We have seen time and again how groups that we are supporting, U.S. American taxpayer dollars are supporting, are directly working with groups like al-Qaeda and ISIS to try to overthrow the Syrian government. It is this regime change war that is driving this humanitarian crisis. We need to stop our support, stop this funding, stop funneling this funding through these other countries who, for their own interests, are trying to conduct this regime change in Syria to overthrow the government so that we can end this humanitarian crisis and allow the Syrian people in their country to begin to heal and to begin to rebuild their own country.
But what about the piece of what's been motivating the U.S. policy, which is belief that Assad is a tyrant, that he's an oppressor of his people and he needs to be taken out in the name of democracy? And if the people want that, America acts on the side of those who want democracy and freedom.
Well, this is the problem, Chris, with U.S. policy of thinking that we should be the world's police and going out and taking out secular dictators as we did in Iraq and as we did in Libya and as we are doing now in Syria. In each of these actions, a few things have happened. One is the people on the ground there, their lives have gotten worse. Human suffering has increased. There has been more loss of life. We've seen more countries fail, and we've seen our enemy, terrorist groups like al-Qaeda and ISIS, grow stronger in the process. This is why our focus must be on directly ending this counterproductive regime change war that we have been fueling and taking that money that we've been pouring directly into helping these terrorist groups in their effort to overthrow the government and putting it towards helping people like the Kurds, groups like the Kurds, who have actually been our strongest ally and partner on the ground in defeating ISIS, the group that actually poses a threat to us.
Congressman Tulsi Gabbard, thank you very much. This is an important conversation. It's a complex conversation. Let us know what the future of the bill is. We'll stay on the story.
Thank you.